It's Prigozhin who was used in 2017 to set up this operation through a front company in Sudan, and it's Prigozhin who has escalated it. In other words, he's one of the key people that's keeping the Ukraine invasion going because he keeps the money flowing and he keeps the private mercenaries flowing, even when Russia's military is taking very heavy losses.
Are Western sanctions finally beginning to bite in Russia?
Yes, I mean, sanctions have been building up on Moscow since the start of Vladimir Putin's invasion on February 24th. Russia has not been able to access about half of its foreign reserves, which are estimated at more than $600 billion. And you've got to keep financing the war, especially given that the Ukrainians have held out against being conquered. And how do you do that? And one source is gold. And one of the sources for that gold is from Sudan, the country in Northeast Africa. There is a bit of a background to this, that this Russian, as it were, whether you call it seizure of gold, negotiations for gold in Sudan, started in 2017. It escalated in 2019 when the military coup took place and the deal was struck by Moscow, which says we'll support the coup and its leaders if you let us expand the gold operations. But the twist here in the CNN investigation is that the Russians are not even paying Sudan for the gold that they're taking. They're smuggling it out of the country. So CNN is reporting from Sudanese and US sources 16 flights in the last 18 months with billions of dollars of gold.
Apparently filling in flight manifests saying things like, we're exporting cookies from Sudan, even though Sudan doesn't produce or export cookies. I mean, they're literally saying they've got planefuls of cookies coming out of Sudan.
Yeah, that was the dramatic story that they opened the article with, which is that, they declare that there are cookies coming out just for the sake of putting something on the form.
And underneath a layer of cookies or something was like a ton of gold.
Well, they had these lovely cookie boxes, and then somebody discovered, well, wait a minute, these cookies weigh more than a ton. That's pretty heavy even for your standard biscuit. And that's when they discovered the gold. But to carry out that inspection, those Sudanese officials had to risk.
Exactly. They were terrified, weren't they? It's not easy to stand up to a whole load of Russian planes on your runways.
And not easy to stand up necessary to your military leadership, who might punish you and say, wait, guys, because they've got an under the table deal with the Russians, because the Russian group that's smuggling this gold out is called the Wagner group. Now, I'm not sure if people know about this group, but they're being used as mercenaries to prop up the Russian military. And this has been occurring in countries from Chechnya to Georgia to Syria in recent years.
Scott, this story seems to have been sorry to interrupt. This story seems to have been masterminded by Yevgeny Prigozhin, who's a Russian oligarch and a key ally of Vladimir Putin. Who is he? Who is Prigozhin? And I'm probably saying his name wrong.
No, it's a good stab at it. Prigozhin is... Yeah, for years, they call him Putin's chef because he cooks up all of Putin's economic and his military deals. He has a whole network of companies that he uses to move money around, that he uses to move gold around, and that he uses to move mercenaries around. And in this case, again, intelligence sources have clearly established, look, it's Prigozhin who was used in 2017 to set up this operation through a front company in Sudan. And it's Prigozhin who has escalated it. In other words, he's one of the key people that's keeping the Ukraine invasion going because he keeps the money flowing and he keeps the private mercenaries flowing, even when Russia's military is taking very heavy losses.
And what's in this for Sudan?
They keep themselves in power. Sudan has had a very turbulent recent history in recent decades. The country was split several years ago. And the military, which faces a lot of opposition inside the country and faces a lot of international isolation, would like to have someone at its back. And Vladimir Putin is that guy.
Scott, give us a brief sort of where are we with the war in Ukraine? Has Putin got what he wants yet? Is he getting close?
No. In fact, the initial story is that Putin was defeated because he wanted to topple the Ukrainian government in the opening days, let alone weeks of the war, and occupy northern Ukraine. By the end of March, he had failed to do that, and his forces had to withdraw. So where are we now? We have two competing stories. One is the Russians are trying to seize territory in the east. They're throwing more forces in there to take what we call the Donbass. But even as they do that, they face a Ukraine counteroffensive that is looking to retake occupied territory in the south. here's the key window to watch.
Right.
In the next few months, before we get to winter, can the Ukraine military, bolstered by Western military aid, including from Ukraine, retake those occupied areas and shift the balance of the war?
How do you sense this conflict plays out over the next, say, 6 months?
I think that Ukraine, bolstered by the West, is turning the military war. I think they will take more of the South. Putin's gamble here is to break the will of countries like the UK and European nations to support Ukraine by squeezing us over energy.